Hi guys, Katie here. So I am having to record on my phone because my laptop broke and I had to ship it off to be fixed. So hopefully this works okay. So I'm going to answer first question number 1, which is about stress and stressors. Stress to me is a reaction that you have when you're overwhelmed. Usually some sort of a physical or emotional reaction. I personally have pretty deep physical reactions to stress, so you can usually see it on my face. I tend to clench my jaw a lot so I can feel it in my jaw, and I also carry a lot in my shoulders. I get knotted up really easy when I'm stressed out, so my husband always knows if I'm stressed out. He can just feel it by touching me. So that's my definition. I think the text did a really good job of defining it. It says on page 348, stress is a cognitive, affective, or physical strain or tension that produces mental tension or psychological reactions that disturb the body's normal state of functioning. I liked how it mentioned that it disturbs the normal state of functioning. I think that's a pretty good way to think about it because it's true. Like I just mentioned, my husband can tell when I'm stressed out just by feeling my shoulders. So it's definitely not normal to have such tense shoulders. Stressors are the actions, experiences, or people that cause stress. So the things that in turn cause somebody to feel that stress reaction. Stressors are also subjective. So what stresses me out may not stress you out, and so on and so forth. And then the interventions for stress, I think the one that I was most interested in was the cognitive coping strategies like REBT, or rational emotive behavioral therapy. It's a type of therapy that kind of helps you process your own emotions and things that drive you to feel stressed out, and kind of from that figure out how you're contributing to your own stress levels and how to maybe pull back on those and realize that you're causing yourself more stress, and the irrational thoughts that you're thinking that are also causing you more stress, and kind of work through that to avoid continuing doing that in the future and in turn lower your stress levels. So I thought that was pretty interesting. For question 2, which is all about conflict in organizations, the text defines conflict on page 360 as when 2 or more parties have varying opinions and perspectives, when parties have incompatible goals or perceived incompatibility. I think that's a pretty simple definition that really aligned with what I would have come up with on my own as well. I probably would have mentioned disagreements, but the text explains that that's not necessarily conflict, which was something that I definitely learned in this chapter, but it makes sense after reading it. I think it would have been nice to know beforehand, or before reading this chapter, that not all conflict is negative. I personally have always kind of attributed conflict to being something negative. It has a negative connotation with it. Whenever you talk about conflict, there's always something bad around that. But page 362 explains that conflict can be classified as either functional or dysfunctional, where functional conflict strengthens relationships and dysfunctional conflict destroys relationships. Functional conflict is resolved through things like cooperation, foresight, focusing, integration, and de-escalating. One part of the text, I'm not exactly sure where, but it mentioned like the stress of getting an assignment or a big project done on time, and then the feeling of relief from completing that is not necessarily a negative thing. And then dysfunctional conflict involves being out of control presumptions, defensiveness, and perceptions that are of deceitful behavior by the other party. Dysfunctional conflict involves polarization, when one person believes they're good and the other party is bad. Also, disconfirmation, when one person attacks another person without working out the issues of the real problem, or coercion, which, bullying behavior is basically to get your way. Overall, I think the text did a really good job of explaining both stress and conflict. I think that it went a lot deeper into what I would have thought it needed to, but it was actually beneficial and interesting to read. Where some of these other chapters, I feel like I've kind of gone a little cross-eyed. So this one was easier for me to get through. Hopefully it was for you too. And then for the third question, I'm just going to go on and do number 3, which is discussing conflict management. I really liked the Kilman-Thomas conflict mode instruments on pages 364 and 366. The basic concept of that is basically that people manage differences through assertiveness and cooperation, and to which degree kind of determines where you fall on that grid. And there's 5 categories there. Let's see, 5 distinct conflict management strategies: avoidance, compromise, accommodation, competition, and collaboration. The steps for effective collaboration, I think, would probably be the most effective tool for people to try to utilize to work through conflict. Since the ultimate management style is defined as collaboration, I think that that is a tool that probably everybody could benefit from. I think one of the things to remember is that both parties really need to be willing to work through conflict this way, otherwise it won't work. The idea, or the steps, I guess, for that effective collaboration is laid out really well. It says, first, define your needs. Second, share your needs with the other person or group. Then listen to their needs. I think that's a big one. You got to listen. Work to find possible solutions, evaluate the solutions and choose the best option, implement the solution, and finally follow up on the solution. Again, I think that for this to work, which it very well could work, it sounds like a really good tool, but both parties really need to be involved and willing to do that, and be willing to listen to the other party and put aside maybe something to help compromise and come up with solutions that will work for everybody. That's what I have for this week. Look forward to hear what you have to say. Thanks. Bye.